a little bell to start. So, welcome one and all to the Glad to Be Human show. I'm Irene O'Garden. I have such a spectacular guest for you today. Her name is HeatherAsh Amara. There is no one on earth like her. You will come to love her. Before we get into all of those beautiful particulars, I'm going to play my theme song. And welcome. So let me tell you first a little bit about this remarkable woman. HeatherAsh Amara is the warrior goddess mama and creatrix of the Warrior Goddess Training Series, including the Warrior Heart Practice and Awaken Your Inner Fire. She's dedicated to supporting women in developing their self-intimacy, steadiness, and stillness by sharing the most potent tools from a variety of world traditions. Raised in Southeast Asia, HeatherAsh has traveled the world from childhood and is continually inspired by the diversity and beauty of human expression and experience. She brings this open-hearted, inclusive worldview to her writings and teaching. HeatherAsh is also a master firewalk instructor, training firewalk instructors every summer in I should have asked.
Big word.
How do you pronounce it properly?
Teotihuacan.
Teotihuacan, Mexico. She can often be found chanting and dancing around the fire. Welcome, welcome, HeatherAsh. What
Thanks
a
so much.
pleasure to have you here today.
So great to be here with you, Irene.
Well, I'm so happy to share this remarkable place you are right now. I want to let people know what you have done, what you have created. And HeatherAsh has written a number of books, one of which I have right here called The Warrior Heart Practice, which is a beautiful way to, if you've got an issue going on, to explore the issue fully and completely. And she leads retreats. And one of the things that she has just lately done is constructed a building of adobe, where I believe you're broadcasting from? Or
no, I'm back. Yeah, I'm back in town. I'm in grid up there.
Oh, yeah. That's right, of course. So from the earth you have built, how far along is it? I'm actually not sure.
It is about halfway done, and we started last May building adobes. So yeah, and it's an amazing project because it's 180 acres of land outside of Santa Fe National Forest. It's a huge amount of land off grid, really remote. And there was an old adobe building. And so a couple of years ago, when we bought the property, we tore the old building down, and I didn't know what I was going to do with that space. And I've just been sitting with the land. And then the pandemic hit. And so instead of traveling, I went and talked to the land and realized we could rebuild right on the old foundation. So we got to reuse the old adobes and a lot of the old material. So it's been just incredible to have people over and have work parties and have a barn raising, but it's a kitchen raising.
Wow. So is this a place that people will come on retreat, or is this your own private retreat? Tell us about it.
Yeah, that's my plan, is that it'll be a hermitage and a place for people to come to reconnect with the land. And yeah, so eventually what I'd love to do is have little cabins so people can come up and write or do their artwork or just be by themselves. And that will have a community kitchen, that will have, retreats every once in a while where we'll do Sweat Lodge and Vision Quest and crafts. So yeah.
Oh, well, you're a woman after my own heart, because that's where my best work gets done, is when I go off on retreat. And you offer many kinds of retreats, as I understand it. how first let me find out, how did you get started in all of wisdom and connection with the earth and connection with one another? What kind of made you go, I really want to commit to this as my life path?
It's such a great question, Irene. Well, it really started when I was a kid, where growing up in Asia, I kept seeing people praying in parks and doing Tai Chi and worshiping.
Hmm.
And it's different in Asia than in the States in a way, because nature is really a lot of what gets worshipped.
Hmm.
And so I kept seeing this over and over again and not understanding and feeling outside.
Mm.
There was this yearning of like, there's something I'm missing. And when I first moved to the United States to go to college, I felt intensely disconnected and I didn't have the language for it. I didn't know what I was missing. And I got into politics really big for a couple of years. So marched for everything and realized a couple of years in, okay, this is not quite what I'm looking for. I'm angry. All my friends are angry. Nothing's changing.
Hmm.
And that was when I started studying different spiritual traditions. And I started with European shamanic wisdom
Hmm.
because I figured my ancestors are from Europe. And so what were my ancestors up to pre-Christianity? And discovered a whole world of really deep earth-based spiritual tradition that's mostly been lost, but has been brought back.
Hmm.
So that was my foundation. And then it just kind of blew up from there.
Wow, that is wonderful. And do you still find yourself traveling to other areas of the world to reground yourself in that and to instruct people as well?
Yes, I still love traveling and um, take groups down to Mexico 2 or 3 times a year and Peru. Uh,
Mhm.
so yeah, I travel all over the States. So I'm definitely a nomad. It's been nice to be home based for a while,
Mhm.
and be able to put energy into the land. And I'll probably start traveling next month again. So
Oh, wow.
yeah,
Wow. Where will you be going?
I'm going down to Texas to do a small group down there. And then in June, end of June, I'm going down to Mexico to Teotihuacan
Mm.
to do a firewalk certification training for instructors.
Well, now, you are definitely the very first firewalk instructor I have had on my show. Um, I know there are a lot of people who are kind of mystified by that idea. Could you explain, or just shed some light on what is that process, and what was that like for you the first time you did it? How did you do it? How do you teach it?
Mm. I think I was 24 when I went to my first fire walk, and a woman I was studying with, Vicki Noble, said, "Hey, I've got a friend who's doing a fire walk. You guys should go." And I had no idea what a fire walk was. I was just like, "Okay, that sounds good." And I showed up, and that night changed my life. It was a 4-hour workshop, 40 women. And I remember the feeling sense of first raking the coals out and thinking, there is no way, like, this is fire. There's no way that I'm walking on this. And then watching the first woman walk. And I remember she was wearing this robe and she threw her robe off really dramatically. And then she walked across the fire. She was probably in her 40s. To me, I was like, oh my God, this old woman just walked at the time. But it just completely transformed my life because my body knew when to go without a doubt. It was like, yep, you can go now. And so about a month after that, I got a notice saying, hey, come learn how to be a firewalk instructor.
Uh,
And my whole body was like, yes. And then I looked at the price and I was like, there's no way. And the next day I was like, I have to do this. I ended up selling my computer, borrowing money from friends. Like I just made it work. I just made it happen. And that was I don't remember what year it was, early 90, like late 80, 89, 90, when I did that training, and been teaching firewalks ever since. And then recently, like 4 years ago, but now I teach instructors. So
uh-huh, uh-huh. You're spreading.
spread the fire, because it's an evening transformation. One of the first things we learn as kids is fire burns. Don't touch hot.
Mhm.
And so the moment you watch somebody walk across 1,200-degree coals, whether or not you walk, just watching someone do it, that agreement shatters. And all of a sudden you're like, okay, how else have I been limiting myself?
Hmm.
Yeah.
And that it's a matter of vision and belief and inner courage, or
All of the above, and also really presence, showing up with the fire and listening. And one of the things that we talk about is that when you raise your energy to match the energy of the fire, you can cross. So
love
we
that.
chant, we do a workshop beforehand and talk about fear. And really the workshop is not about you shouldn't have fear. The workshop is you're gonna have fear, and fear is energy. Use it, keep going.
Mm.
That's such a great life lesson.
Oh, powerful. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
I love that. I
Yeah.
love that. Well, please get a hold of HeatherAsh Amara. She will give her contact information at the end of this if you are interested in exploring this. And I know that there are also other types of teachings that you do. I mean, I don't know if you're doing Warrior Heart retreats, but this, guys, I got to tell you, this is such a wonderful process. It's about connecting with a feeling that you're having in a situation that may be frustrating you. And it's about finding the stories that you have told yourself years and years about what it means. And it's about going straight to the truth of it, and using your intent, and then kind of cycling back once you've done that. And I have done that with a couple of issues. It is a really, really powerful technique. And you offer that as well, or?
Yeah, most of what I've been doing the last year is we have an online circle. And within that circle, we do a lot of warrior heart practice as a way to untangle the agreements and the beliefs, places that we get stuck.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it is such a great practice.
And you've used the word agreement more than once. Do you want to illuminate us in the way you interpret that word?
Yeah, an agreement is a belief that we take on, sometimes unconsciously, sometimes consciously, mostly unconsciously.
Mm-hmm.
And I think about agreements as, if you think about icebergs, like there's the tip of the iceberg,
Mm-hmm.
which is the part that we can see, and the kind of agreements that we make really consciously. Here's a job I'm going to have. I'm going to get paid this much money. And here's the agreement of what the contract is. Like, it's a very clear agreement, or when you're in a relationship, perhaps. But a lot of times we have all these unconscious agreements that we've taken on as children, from our peers, from our parents, from our religion, that we don't even realize that we have said yes to.
Mm-hmm.
But it's actually what's causing us to make choices in our world now. And so that's one of the things I help people do is excavate. What are some of the belief systems, stories, agreements, I use them interchangeably, that we've created that weigh us down, that don't serve us any longer, and how to bring those up and untangle them.
Uh-huh.
So we can
You were just talking about doing this online circle, which of course makes sense given the challenges of the past year. Have you found your work has changed or intensified, or what has happened during this year for you that has found its way into your work?
Mm-hmm. It was a wild ride last year, as many of us know. And one of the things that I loved about the process is that I have a really great team, and we just pivoted. Like March 15th, we were all together, and I think lockdown happened the next day in Texas. And we were like, all right, what are we going to do? And so my friend Mary and I, we actually broadcast live 24/7 for a week, the first week of the pandemic, just to stay in connection with people and love people. And then we started broadcasting for the next 6 weeks. And it was really beautiful to meet new people, to stay connected to the community, to just reassure that there was a way we could stay connected, even if we were separate. And then we dismantled everything. So we took a year and just like tore everything down to the foundation. It's kind of like what I did with the building. Like, we tore it down to the foundation, and we said, what's the best things that we offer? What can we do to create an online circle that'll really serve people? So we just launched that in November.
Oh, congratulations.
Yeah, and that's been a huge gift, and a huge, lots of labor went into that baby. But I'm really proud of it, because it really is. It's the best of the teachings I've done over the years, and video recordings, live classes. with my mentors. And then we have retreats. So we just had an online 2-day equinox retreat with about, I don't know, 10 different warrior goddess mentors sharing their wisdom. So it's been really sweet. It's been a really beautiful way to bring community together, even if we can't physically touch.
I know, that's so strange. Well, that's one of the things that I really love about the older traditions is there's a great sensuality to the practices. There's a great, the sage and the
Yes.
touch of things and the actual objects and artifacts and so forth. And that's hard not to share with people right now. Although I've found myself going out just to get in the garden and go.
Yeah.
But it's wonderful that you're able to distill so much and share that virtually. You train other people to become teachers of not just this, but other, I mean, of not just firewalks, but other.
Yeah, I really love working with women leaders. So I do a training for warrior goddess facilitators. We're about to bring online again warrior heart coaching. So there's a lot of different overlaps of places where I'm sharing leadership skills and just everything that I've learned over the last 30 years around being in the public, how to take care of yourself, how to hold a container for groups, how to create circles.
Mm.
Yeah. So
Wow.
lots of magic around that.
One woman college, I'd say.
It is. And I've got lots of help. So it's definitely, I might be the mama, but I've got lots of support.
One of our viewers has just asked, what is the medal that you are wearing?
Good question, John. So this is Guadalupe.
Oh.
Yeah. So it's a double Guadalupe. Yeah. So.
And have you always felt a deep connection?
For a while now, when I was studying with Don Miguel Ruiz, who's the author of the Four Agreements, we used to go down to Teotihuacan every couple times a year. I think I went down there for the first time in 1994. And so I've been down there like literally hundreds of times. And when I first went down, I remember Miguel was like, okay, we're going to go into this church. And I was like, I don't do churches. I'm a witch. Like, no, I'm not going into the church. And he was like, come on. And I walked in and I remember my heart just sang because I could feel the devotion. I could feel the deep devotion. And that was really when I started falling in love with Guadalupe and Mexico and the culture of Mexico, which is so beautiful, so deeply tied to the mother and to the dead and to the ancestors. So there's a richness there that nurtures my soul.
Oh, that's beautiful. It's beautiful. Well, I don't always ask people this, but I understand you're working on a new book. Can you tell us anything about it that you feel comfortable telling us about?
Yes, I am working on a creative nonfiction, or so I have allergies, so the face is like, calm down, little face, it's okay. So it's been intense. I've been really raking through the threads of my life and really looking at a journey that I went through around a divorce and dismantling my life and putting it back together in a new way, and really how I connected to my intuition at a deep level after kind of a shattering that happened, and to a sense of faith. So I'm about 3/4 of the way through. I'm up on the land right now, hermiting, writing. Yeah. So it's been, I was telling you earlier, and Irene, just from writing, like I have to right now just write. Don't think about it. Just write. It's fine. Because my brain's like, this is horrible. It's not going to happen. I don't like this. I want to do something different. It's like, shh. Keep going.
Oh, I know. Sometimes it is like walking over burning coals sometimes. And you just go, I can do this. I'm going to do this. I'll do a terrible job for a while. Let's just do that terrible job. And then you get to go back over and go, oh, I know what I can do. Oh, I can see how this happens.
Exactly.
Growth and the process of growth.
Yeah. And I'm super proud of myself because I usually try and write books, and this is not the way to write books, like perfect the first draft.
Oh,
And this one, there's no way. I just have to verbally vomit. And
yeah.
so I'm actually really, people are like, how's the book going? I'm like, it's so bad. It's terrible. And I'm so proud of myself for how terrible it is.
Yes, yes.
Because I'll clean it up later.
Exactly, exactly. And also, this is a big emotional stuff.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, this is a big emotional thing you're reliving. So it's understandable that it's not just, you know, it's not just walking out in nature and saying, here's this beauty. How can I share it? It is, well, it's going in here and saying, here's this beauty. How can I share it? Even as it was in pieces and as it was imperfect for, you know, for what I thought it should be. But
yeah, it's been good. And you have been an inspiration in that, of reading
oh,
your book of Risking the Rapids, and also Glad to Be Human, of course, which I shared earlier. I have up on the land, and when I need inspiration, I always get up and feel your love and your heart and your wisdom in the words.
thank you. Thank you. Well, one other thing that I wanted to ask you about, when you talk about chanting and dancing, which I really love rhythm and music and all of that, is this something, do you play instruments? Do you, how does this manifest for you? And do you do retreats on that?
Gosh, I would love to do. As part of the different apprenticeship programs I do, because I have deep dive workshops of people that will work with me over a couple of years. We do chanting every morning when we meet live. It's such a beautiful way to get quiet and come present and feel that sense of connection. And in a former life, I used to be part of a Congolese dance drum group. Yeah, Cuban and yeah. So I have that in my body, and lots of African dance as well, and jazz when I was young. So that's always brought in, is that heartbeat, that steady way of letting the nervous system slow down and go into the magic.
Yeah. Oh, wow. And when you talk about chanting, is there a particular tradition that you like to draw your chants or your mantras from, or is it all over, or where could somebody who's interested find a thread that might help?
Yeah, for me, it's all over. So we do a lot of chanting in Sanskrit. But I also have a lot of English chants that have been from the European tradition, or that have been recreated, Native American chants. So it's one of my loves, is collecting from all over the world. And one of the great things about being part of the Firewalk community is that there's people all over. And so we collect chants from each other. And we'll be like, okay, we've got a new one, you know, and someone from South Africa will be like, I'm going to teach you this old African chant. Somebody will be like, my friend just made a new chant. Here it is. And so we all collect those pearls. So powerful.
Wow. Oh, that's so beautiful. Oh, and I had another question for you. Where did it go? It just flew out of my head. Oh, I know. It was about, could you share, without, of course, naming names or anything, have there been one or two transformations of people under your wing that you could give us an idea of what that's like?
Yes. I tend to work with people that are either like have done a tremendous amount of spiritual work, but know they're missing something. And so, like, even when I started teaching when I was in my 20s, I'd have people that were like sometimes 3 times my age come and be like, oh my God, my life has shifted. Just because I've really consciously gathered some of the most potent tools to help in transformation. So that, you know, people literally who have been on a spiritual path and didn't realize how much they were leaking their energy, how much they were actually using their spiritual tradition against themselves. I'm really good at this, right? You read a book and you're like, okay, I'm going to love. That's really, all spiritual books say the same thing, basically. Love yourself, love everybody else. But if it was easy, we'd all be doing it. But what we often do is we read something that inspires us, and we're inspired for a day or two, and then the brain gets hold of it, the judge gets hold of it and starts saying, you're not being very loving. What's wrong with you? You read that book. If you were a really good spiritual person, you would be more loving, or you wouldn't have gotten irritated, or you would have. And so suddenly we're now punishing ourselves. So that's really one of the big things I help people do is untangle the judge and the victim, so that they're solid in using the tools to dismantle what doesn't work, rather than actually using the tools to keep old structures intact. Yeah.
Wow. And can you share an example of someone's transformation?
Yeah, I think one of the women that's one of our mentors now, she actually came in just for the fire walk. This was about 6 years ago. She was like, I don't know who Heather Ash is. I don't care who she is. I just want the fire walk. And by the end of the fire walk, she's like, she committed. Like, she came to every workshop. And when she came in, she was in tremendous fear of everything. And she was a social worker. She was really struggling in her relationship to work. She was taking a lot of burden on of the people that she was working with. And she'd spent most of her life just afraid of everything. And to look at her now, she is a powerhouse, no fear. And she started, this is one of the other things that our community does is we really go, okay, how do we create what we call not doings, which is taking an action with no reward that helps to break old patterns. And so she started camping by herself. This was eventually just by being inspired by other stories from other people in the community. And she's just a completely different woman today because she's no longer afraid of herself or of the men. Like, she's afraid of water. All the things. And she just learned how to support herself with love to go, okay, I'm going towards the fear. Instead of running, I'm going towards.
Wow. That is wonderful. That is wonderful. So if any of our viewers or listeners, whether you're watching this live or whether you're watching the replay, are interested in pursuing some of this work, Heather Ash, will you tell us where people can go to find more information?
My website is warriorgoddess.com. So warriorgoddess.com. And I do work with men, though it's mostly women. And I'm also on all the places, all the social media, Facebook and Instagram. Instagram's a great place to follow along with the building project.
Oh boy, yeah, that's for sure. I've watched many portions of this incredible structure go up. I hope to see it in person one day.
Oh, I look forward to that. And I look forward to being back in New York.
New York, yes. And so, of course, I'm going to ask you my favorite question, which is, what makes you glad to be human?
Everything.
Well, that covers it pretty well.
I am so grateful for every piece of this existence and this life, whether it's really challenging or it's super sweet and easy. And I'd say right now, what's making me glad to be human is the opportunity to learn how to build by hand and to put my love into every brick and every shovelful of mud. And and just to learn that skill has been unbelievable.
Wow. Well, that is perfect. Thank you so much. I'm gonna play our little theme song. Such a rich conversation. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, sweetheart.
And glad to be human. Thanks, my dear.
Thank you.